Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our webinar conversation today about alternative pathways to post-secondary education, career education, and apprenticeship programs. Next slide. I'm very excited today to have myself, Tia Holiday from John Burton Advocates for Youth, Vincent Jackson from Los Angeles Trade Technical College, and Yuritsa Farias from Division of Apprenticeship Standards to talk to us a little bit about career education, tools that we can use, and alternative pathways that youth can access post-secondary education. Next slide. Just some logistics and housekeeping and information for those of you participating as a listener. The download for today's PowerPoints are actually located in the handout section. There are two types of downloads. It's one that has 3 slides where if you wanted to print it out and write notes, and there's one that only has 1 slide per page. So if you would like to download those and follow along with us. If you would like to submit questions, our questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. You can use the questions panel to type in your questions and then just make sure you click send to send it to us, and we will answer those at the end. And then presentation materials and audio is also going to be posted on our website on johnburtonadvocatesforyouth.org and then California College Pathways under webinars. So next slide. Just some very quick reminders. The FAFSA priority deadline is coming up on March 2nd. We cannot stress enough to please make sure that we're getting those FAFSAs in early. The faster that we get them in and by March 2nd, the maximum financial aid our foster youth will have access to their Pell Grant and their Cal Grant, and they'll have the maximum amount of money. You can do it after March 2nd, but we really want to stress that March 2nd deadline. And then also our FAFSA challenge reporting deadline is approaching on March 18th. I will be sending out the link for you to begin your reporting, and the deadline again is on March 18th. So thank you. Next slide. I'm very excited to introduce Vincent Jackson from LA Trade Tech. He's going to talk to us about career and technical education.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks to everyone who was on the call. Special thanks to Tia and Debbie for setting up the webinar. Next slide. Most of the students, particularly we're focusing on foster youth, they have a lot of ideas on what they want to do, but when they come to see a counselor, they basically do not have a real strong idea what they want to do. So they come with, questions such as, what are my career options? What are the educational paths to those careers? What do I need to take in a 2-year program, or if there's going to be an accelerated program, which may be 15 months or even 10 months, what is the class I need to take? How long will it take, and how much money does it cost? There's always a financial aid issue with most foster care students, but they want to know also what are their financial outlets. How much financial aid can I get? Okay, that would depend upon basically their where they are and actually filling out the application. And will my credits transfer? Some of the classes that they'll be taking or the careers they'll be pursuing might also be a transfer to a 4-year college. So for the career technical education, there is the 2-year program as well as transfer. Next slide. As I mentioned before, in the career technical education CTE programs, they have different options. We have the traditional 2-year program, which takes about 2.5 years if you include the winter and also the summer session, intersessions. But most of the courses are 2 years. We do have programs which, and this is for most community colleges, not just Trade Tech. There may be programs which are shorter than 2 programs, which we call accelerated programs. Many of the CTE programs do offer the community colleges with for low income students, and depending upon their status, they can attend for free, which we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. The programs also prepare students for good paying jobs in specific industries. One of the things that community colleges for CTE programs is that they also are affiliated with advisory committees, which are business and industry folk who work with the departments to make sure that the career curriculum is up to date and is going to meet the goals of students when they graduate. And also, I mentioned financial aid is available. I have one example here for the plumbing, where a certificate at LA Trade Tech can make around, and this is a low mark, about $60,000 a year once they receive a certificate from the college. Again, we are affiliated with, and most CTE programs are affiliated with business industry. So depending upon the industry, this number could be increased. And this does not include overtime. So on the right-hand side, you see some of the programs that we have offered at LA Trade Tech. Other community colleges may have a different slot, or maybe some of these that are also here. Next slide. One of the things that really piques a lot of students, particularly foster care students, is the proprietary schools. And this is, you see the sign that says warning on there, because you probably are aware that a lot of the proprietary schools are under federal investigation or have already lost accreditation. Okay, you see some examples at the bottom of the slide: Corinthian Operated Schools, ITT, Tech, and also Cordon Bleu. Cordon Bleu, we also have a culinary arts program here, and the minute Cordon Bleu unfortunately went under, a lot of their faculty flocked to us. And so some of them obviously now are working for us and have met the minimum requirements to teach. So what we do want to emphasize, even though that the proprietary schools are a option, is that they do have a higher per credit versus the community colleges. You see the listing there, $497 roughly per credit versus $46 a credit per credit. What happens usually, and a lot of you see a lot of the commercials on television, that the proprietary schools, they talk about, you know, once you get your degree, you'll be matched up with you have a job waiting for you. Well, one of the big issues is the students have high rates of debt after they finish the classes of the program, and they also have poor job outcomes. So that's just to say that even though this is an option, be very careful and make this known to the students, because when they watch TV, it may be a little unclear, basically on television, on what they're seeing and actually what happens in real life when they're going to a school such as DeVry, for example. Next slide. These are some of the additional links that you can look at your leisure pertaining to proprietary schools. There was one link that I remember seeing when I was preparing this. My portion was over in the nation, about 800 proprietary schools have been under investigation or have lost accreditation. So these are some additional slides to help you once you are working with your clients, your students, on preparing them possibly for proprietary schools or vocational schools. Yes, next slide. So this slide here basically is where foster youth usually are. They probably have not finished high school, and they probably could be working, let's say, you know, part-time in a retail store, culinary, you know, McDonald's or whatever, which is not a problem. But at some point, usually they want to get more of a sustainable employment. And this is where the arrows are, is where the community colleges come into play. Most of the students, again, because they're getting up a little older now, and they want to get in their careers quickly, because they may have families or paying rent or whatever. They need some sustainable income that's going to hold them through and also providing them with the training and education that they need to go into to be prepared for their career path. So the community college is a viable source for particularly any student, but for this conversation here, for the foster youth to go to a community college. And the educational training, again, depending on the program they're looking at, could be an accelerated program of 10 months, 15 months, or 2 years. Next slide. Okay, this slide kind of gives you an overview of the California job openings from 2015 through 2025. And what I want to focus on is the middle section here. If you remember hearing President Obama talk about wanting to have 5 million credentialed students or graduates by the year 2020, that was anticipation for the new jobs or careers that will be available around 2020 to 2025. So this, what I'm talking about here is the middle grid, the 30%. This is where the foster youth can, with career training, can tie in and be prepared for these upcoming jobs that are going to be available for them. Okay, and the community college is a viable source to get that done. If a student wants to transfer to a four-year college, which will be the green level top, that's fine too. But most of the students of foster care are looking for career goals and skills so they can get to work immediately, and that's falling into the 30% that we're looking at here. Next slide. This kind of gives you a grid of the job market, labor market from the 70s through 2020. And as you can see that in the 1970s, just having a high school education was the way to go. You didn't really need to have any additional education beyond a high school degree. But as you see, as we go through the pendulum here, in 1992, the jobs required more training, not necessarily a degree, but more training at the high school. And as you can see now, by 2020, there's more technology involved. More of the jobs are requiring more post-secondary education and also training, not necessarily a four-year degree, but more post-secondary education, which that's where the community colleges fall in. So you may also see the underlining bullet at the bottom where it says approximately 42% of the demand for career skills will not be met within the 5 years. That kind of goes to what the outlook for having more graduates by the year 2000. And so what that tells you basically is that right now we have students who are not completing programs and are not and therefore do not have the skill sets that are meeting the needs of the jobs now. So again, this is where the community college will fall in. This is where this will be a viable source for foster youth to get into a career path, career education, obtain the job skills needed, and to be able to vie for sustainable employment by the year 2000 or closely thereafter. Next slide. This here basically just is a target of occupations that are where businesses are looking for people. This is also for entrepreneurship as well as working for agencies. The numbers below there are kind of ballpark guesstimations within the California area about the amount of jobs that will be available now through the year 2025. You can see there's a mix here of CTE programs as well as transfer. So that, again, depending upon the career that they're looking for, there may be some need for additional education going to a four-year college, or the two-year degree will be sufficient. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is basically a slide where it kind of shows basically the career technical education programs do involve lecture as well as a laboratory. Okay, and you can see in some of these pictures here, where we're seeing now also is that more females are now being part of the traditional male-dominated jobs, such as welding. I had talked to a agency a while back, and they're saying that actually they're seeing that women welders are actually better. They seem to be operating better than some men, and the reason why is because they seem to have more precision in regards to what they're doing in classes and also on the job in the area of welding. That's just one example there. So you're seeing a lot of females now that are also being part of career education programs, which were primarily dominated by males in the past, which is a good sign. Next slide. This is an example of a what they call a stackable credential, where for students who are looking to go into a CTE program, and also I mentioned before that the programs do speak or do have conversation with advisory boards. As part of the program, there are stackable certificates that can be also achieved as they are going up the ladder to receive a certificate or a associate degree in this particular area. This is an example of manufacturing. So you can see with the asterisk books, we'll say the stackables, which are in orange, those are particularly basic skill elements that businesses are looking for when they're looking for employees after they finish a degree. So the importance of career readiness, basic skills, being on time, work ethic, passion for the job. Okay, these are some of the things that are infused into the program, and students can receive a certificate as they go up the ladder to the associate degree, certificate, and beyond. Next slide. Okay, we talked a little bit about this in the beginning. One of the questions that foster youth will ask is about financial aid availability, and all the community colleges have financial aid programs on campus. You can see the one of the examples is the College Promise Grant, which is also known as the BOG Free Waiver. That's available for short and long-term programs. One of the requirements to receive financial aid is to have a high school diploma. Some of the foster care students may not have that, but as part of this page here, most of the community colleges also have what they call an ability to benefit program, which is similar to a GED program, which will allow them to achieve their GED at a community college, and then when they achieve that, then they can then enroll in a CTE program, and then they will be available for financial aid. There also is foster youth may qualify for what they call the Chafee Grant, up to $5,000. Most of the programs, and it differs between the programs, CTE programs, the two-year program, including uniforms, books, and other supplies, is around $5,000 roughly. So the Chafee Grant, if a foster youth student qualifies for this, that could actually pay for their two-year program. There's also, and again, I mentioned to you also, there is the College Promise Grant, as well as other foster financial aid availability options for students. Okay, the ILP, which is the Independent Living Program, also depending upon the eligibility of the foster youth, may also receive funding from this source also, which can help pay for materials and equipment for their program. Next slide. Okay, this is a slide basically that kind of shows you where in California, where the need for the career paths that are around the state. Okay, this is kind of a general snapshot, which is prepared by the California Community College District at the state level. So this is so when you meet with your students, kind of figure out basically what they want to do, and we'll get into later about the career assessments that pertain to this. These are kind of the snapshot areas where where the jobs are in the state. Some of the students, the foster care students, may be moving around, but even if they do that, they will know basically if they move, say up north, that's where small business and advanced manufacturing are for the most part. Okay, if they're interested in agriculture, water, and environmental technologies, that's more in the middle region of California. So this is not a fix-all, but it kind of gives you a general idea where the jobs are within California, which will help you when you meet with your students for assistance, and it kind of shows you where the gaps are and the needs are in the California regions. Next slide. This slide here is aligned with the other one. This actually is a integrated slide where you can actually, it's a populated site where you can go into clicking on one of the regions, and then you'll see actually the actual jobs that are needed in that region. Okay, I'm not going to go through that right now because I have 20 minutes for my portion. But once you are offline and working with your clients, you can actually hone in basically depending upon which region to see basically what jobs are in that region, which also will help the student to find out where in California the specific jobs are, particular to their pathway interests. Next slide. Okay, Career Coach is another tool that can be used also based upon your meetings with your clients, your foster care students. This kind of gives you a median salary of, if they're interested, for example, in child, family, and school social workers, it kind of gives you a median salary based upon their educational level and the area where they want to work. It kind of gives you a median salary on that and what you will need in regards to education in order to meet that median salary. Okay, and also on the second part here, where it gives you the amount of openings in that area. Okay, so this is a very important tool. Obviously, when students are looking to obtain sustainable employment, this is a good option, a good career assessment tool to use, the Career Coach. Next slide. This also is a helpful slide. We have foster students who may have children. They also, again, may want to, this is an example here of, let's say a student wanted to that they may live in Riverside County, and this kind of shows basically, kind of gives you a snapshot if they are adult and they have one child. If you look at the third column, it says they would need to basically a living wage somewhere around $27 to meet the economic sustainability living in Riverside. As part of this slide here, which goes in a little more detail, if a student was looking at moving out of state, this grid here would change to, let's say you said Alabama, this grid would change to Alabama, and the wages there will also be a little different from Alabama, but it will show basically based upon where they are, if they are two adults in a household, one adult, it would show basically what they would need to make in order to, we'll say, survive sufficiently in that particular county or state. Next slide. Okay, this slide here is also a good one, CC My Path, and this is one where if a student, foster youth had no idea what they were doing, they don't know what they're doing, but they're coming to you for some assistance, for example. This will allow you to do a quick career assessment under number 1 here, where it says explore careers. It's kind of similar to the Myers-Briggs assessment, where they would answer probably about 5 questions to kind of get an idea where their mind is, and then after the 5 questions, it will then basically give an idea, basically based upon your answer to your questions, and obviously they need to answer the questions truthfully. It will show basically what your career areas would be. With that with that known, then number two, which you're able to choose a college that has those particular pathways within that college. Okay. Then it will go into financial aid for that college, what their requirements are, what their process are. Obviously, financial aid, applying early is better. Usually if you're applying for the fall semester, having financial aid documents start or completed by March is a good idea, because you want to make sure that the students start off on the right track by having the financial aid in place so they can use their financial aid to buy their books and they're ready to go. And number four, it obviously goes to financial aid, what I just mentioned, how to pay for college. So this one here is a good screen here for a student who had no idea what they want to do, but they're coming to you for assistance. You can quickly do a quick assessment by having them answer about 5 questions, and then a snapshot of a economical employment area will give them a idea on where they can start going towards orientation at a particular college that offers that particular career path. Next slide. Okay, these areas here are explore careers. Again, behind these, when you click on this web link here, it can go into specific career paths, and it has videos behind here where you have students explaining how they got started. Some of them you'll find out had no clue, but then when they found out what their career interests were based upon a career assessment, they can talk student to student on how they're doing in the program. They could be working also, and just how the exploring of careers kind of got them into an idea of maybe this, maybe that, and then they honed in based upon the career assessment on a particular career path. So this one here is a great one where students can see actually other students like themselves that hopefully will benefit based upon what they hear from the students, and these are live videos. Next slide. This is another video library. This is specifically honed in on the region. Again, you'll have students who are in programs in certain regions. It kind of goes to the same aspect as the previous slide, where there's certain pathways that students can go into, and then this video here kind of goes a little more further by region based upon the career paths that are available. So this also is a good slide that complements the previous slide. Next slide. Okay, so, a salary server also is a good tool. This basically, once students finish their certificate or degree, they can basically go in to see basically what my projected entry-level salary would be based upon my degree. It also shows you a comparison of if you were able to go into a career and not have a degree. It kind of shows you basically what your average would be prior to receiving a certificate or an AS degree. And then it also goes into a little more depth about if you're in that field 2 or 3 years after your degree, how your annual income starts to increase. So this also is a good tool for students, and these tools can be used 24/7. So it's not that they need to come to you all the time, but that's good. That is a good location to go to. This slide here is salary server. It kind of shows you based upon what the interest of the student would be, biological science, and what their degree is. It shows you that kind of gives you immediate annual salary based upon 2 years before they receive the degree, 2 years after, and also 5 years. And these are basic estimates based upon the career path they're going into. Next slide. Okay, again, this is kind of a subset of going through the salary server. Again, it also talks about the colleges that have those programs. So once you figure out what you want to do, it also talks about the awards that you would need. and it goes to the median annual salaries we talked about before. Then it also goes into the colleges that offer those particular programs and degrees. So it kind of gives you the complete gamut before a student gets started, which is great, and getting them on the right path. Next slide. Okay, this is another tool that can be used also. It's similar to the career coach and the salary server. So this is an additional a tool used by the California community colleges for incoming students. Next slide. Okay, so this again is another a similar tool. It goes a little more depth based upon the actual career that the student is looking at, okay, and it also talks about the actual degree required for that. It also talks about where these jobs are. We talked about that in a couple of slides before, where it talked about the career path in certain regions within California. Okay, this also talks about, again, where the actual degrees and the where students can take those courses and those programs. This is an example here of the College of Marin, okay, for the three-dimensional design, okay, and so if students are living in those areas, it will be a viable option for a student to go to that school and then to apply for the Applied Design program. Next slide. Okay, that ends my portion of this presentation. I think at this point, I'll be passing it on to Rita.
Hi, everyone. It's actually Tia.
Tia.
Thank you, Vincent, so much. No worries. Thank you so much, Vincent, for that awesome information and all those tools. Those are tools that you can absolutely use even today with your youth, so I highly encourage you to use those tools with those students. I want to talk a little bit about students with disabilities. I always want to stress that we want to continue to emphasize that college is an option for our students with disabilities. There are options at the community colleges. There's options even at the four-year colleges. And so I always want to stress that students with disabilities absolutely can go to colleges, and we should absolutely continue to emphasize that. Students with IEPs and 504 plans, they are not required to have those to access services on campus. However, it is helpful. It can expedite the process. I would also encourage programs and for offices and for staff to begin creating connections with the Students with Disabilities office at the appropriate colleges. They do have a registration process. There are processes for accommodations. And so getting familiar with those processes and accommodations and being able to present those to the students as you're having conversations with students who may have a learning disability or maybe a little skeptical about going to college because of their disability, just saying like, hey, there are these options at these colleges that you're able to take advantage of. Making sure to include them in your campus tours, just making sure like this is the office that will take care of you if you have a learning disability. Even, if you have a group of students that you're working with, even bringing them on their own campus tour, introducing them to available resources at the colleges. And so that can be assistive learning technology, introducing them to the staff will be helping them, and inviting the disability services staff to county meetings, to events, getting to actually learn about their processes and the people who are going to be helping your students through the transition into college and then through their entire time there. And then finally, just being sure that we are continually using the strength-based language versus deficit-based language. So when we're talking to students, continuing to say when you go to college rather than if you go to college, that will really help to promoting for our students with disabilities to continue to go into college. And at this moment, I'm actually going to hand it over to Yuritsa. She's going to talk to us about apprenticeship programs.
Thank you, Tia. Hello, everyone. My name is Yuritsa Frias. I'm a business coordinator with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. So we are a state regulatory agency that oversees all state registered apprenticeships. And we are trying to reach out to foster youth and get them to look at apprenticeship as an alternative pathway. I know college isn't for everybody, or sometimes tuition is an issue, and so apprenticeship is a good way for those foster youth with those obstacles to still get a career and get a living wage. Next slide, please. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about what makes up an apprenticeship, and there's two different models. There's a apprenticeship model, and then there's the on-the-job training model, and I'll talk about the little differences of that, and then the benefits for the youth. Next slide, please. Okay, so right now, there's over 80,000 registered apprentices in the state of California, with over 600 state registered occupations. And we are the largest state apprenticeship program right now in the nation. Next slide, please. Okay, so apprenticeship has two components. So like I said, there's two models. There's on-the-job training one, and then there's the apprenticeship one. And I'm going to be talking about the apprenticeship model. This one has an on-the-job training component and a classroom instruction component. Next slide, please. And so the classroom instruction component is called the related supplemental instruction. In order for it to qualify as a registered apprenticeship with the state, it has to have a minimum of 144 hours. So it could be a little bit less and a little bit more than 144 hours. These hours could be done either at a community college, at an adult school, or on the training side of that apprenticeship that they have been enrolled to. This is tuition free, which is a great incentive for the foster youth. The only thing that they might ever have to pay for is their tools, and that's only if they go into like construction. Sometimes those employers require the apprentices to purchase their own tools, but a lot of them, not all of them, but most do offer some funding for those tools that they're required to pay out of pocket for. And during this classroom instruction, the apprentices will learn a very organized, they'll get a really organized background in theory, and they'll understand the reasons why they're performing the tasks on the job. Next slide, please. And so the on-the-job training components of the apprenticeship model, they're learning organized work processes. They're always being supervised. It does have to be a minimum of 2,000 hours, which is usually completed in about a year if they're going full-time. And they're getting paid for all these 2,000 hours. The difference between this and an internship is that they're actually getting paid while they're learning. And they're getting wages that are scheduled, whether it's every 3 months, or every time they've reached or they have proven that they have mastered a certain section of that apprenticeship program, they'll get a raise. Next slide, please. And so just to summarize the apprenticeship program, it's the 2,000 hours of paid work, the 144 hours of classroom instruction, the wage increases, they're getting supervised. And so one thing I wanted to point out about the classroom is with the disability, those with disability, each program is very unique. We oversee and regulate and make sure that they're following all the policies and treating the apprentices equally, but we can't tell them who they can accept into their programs. And so with disability, you have to take in consideration the occupation they're applying for, whether it's construction or if it's IT, they're more likely to get into an IT position because there's less safety liability for that disability youth. Next slide, please. And so then there's also the on-the-job training model. This is very similar, but it's less hours, so it's either 500 minimum to 2,000, and they're also getting paid throughout this whole time. The only thing that's different about this model is that they don't receive the classroom instruction. This is just plain working. They still receive the supervised training. They're still getting the raises, and it's just a quicker program. It can be completed in as little as 3 months. And so this one might be easier for students who want to just get a quick certificate and start working as a technician. or working with IT and just getting like one of the lower certificates with software. Next slide, please. Okay, so I want to point out some of the benefits. I know a lot of you might be familiar with Assembly Bill 12. For the extended foster care eligibility, a lot of the students need to still be either enrolled in school full-time or be employed. Well, these apprenticeships do meet those requirements. If they're a part of the apprenticeship model and they join an apprenticeship program with the 2,000 hours, they'll be meeting both the education and the employment participation requirement. If they end up joining an on-the-job training type of program, then they'll be doing the employment participation part. And so this is just another opportunity for youth to earn a living. They do start at minimum wage. Some are a lot higher. It just depends on the occupation. And I will show you all how to look at those minimum wages, or the wages that each program offers. And so it's just an alternative pathway. Okay, and so I'm going to show you how to go onto the website and how to find these registered apprenticeships. And so you'll just go on the website, there'll be a Become an Apprentice tab. Sorry, excuse me. It'll be Find an Available Apprentice. Oh, sorry, can we go back one slide? Yeah, so there'll be a Find an Available Apprenticeship Program link, and then you'll be able to search by county. So each youth can go through the steps, and they'll be able to see the counties around them or the county that they're in, and you'll see all the available occupations to them. And I'm actually going to show you how to do that right now. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to go on the website. It's www.dir.ca.gov/DAS. And then we'll find that Become an Apprentice tab. So I'll go ahead and click on this right here. And then we'll scroll down and find that link where it says Find Available Apprenticeship Programs. Okay, and on this page is where you'll be able to filter out the different counties. And so here we'll take a look at San Francisco County. And this drop-down menu will show you all the available occupations in that county. But just so that I can show you how you can see them all, we're just going to leave it at all occupations. We'll hit search. Okay, so this is where you'll be able to see all the occupations that are available. They will be in alphabetical order. And if you look down below, you'll see that in the state, the county of San Francisco, there are 193 registered occupations that each youth can go through, or you can go through this with the youth that you serve and just look at the different occupations on the left side that are highlighted in the blue and just pick an occupation that seems interesting. You might have to do some research. Some of these occupations are named a little different than people usually would recognize. But then once you click on them, you'll see here all the information you need on the apprenticeship program. You'll see the apprenticeship length, which in this case is 48 months. You'll even see the starting wage, which for this program specifically, you have to contact the program and ask them what that starting wage will be. You'll see the requirements, such as the age minimum, the education requirements, physical requirements. So some of these will require a high school diploma, some of them might not. These programs are all very unique. It is important to look at them, look at their page here, and see what each requires individually. So some will require a written test or an oral exam, some might not. And the contact information for these programs are also available on this page. This is where this program is. Their headquarters are located in San Francisco. And you'll also see the contact person below. And that's the contact coordinator. So if you had questions about the starting wage or just anything that's not on this page and you had questions about, you can contact, or this person would be James Anderson, and that's his phone number. and his email address, and you can ask about when the applications are taken, when they are open, and yeah, I mean, this is mostly how you would look at programs. And so I'm going to try and look at a different program here. We'll try a different county. Okay, so now let's do here. Let's do Los Angeles County. And again, I'm going to leave it at all occupations so that we could see everything. Okay, so like the other one below, you'll see that in LA, we have 238 registered occupations. And you would be able to just go through each page and just find something that's interesting. The youth can do this on their own too. And so we'll look at Boilermaker up here. Go ahead and click on that. And just like the other one, you'll see the program length. So the 48 months means that the program will be finished in about 2 years. This one actually shows the starting wage. So the starting wage for Boilermaker will be 25. So this one is way above minimum wage. So a lot of them will be different. This one also requires a high school diploma or GED or equivalent. This one doesn't require any exams. And again, the contact information is down here. This one does say Arizona. That just means that their headquarters is in Arizona, but they have a site in LA. And so again, contacting that apprenticeship coordinator is important. And you could do this with the youth or have the youth do this on their own. Sending them an email is probably the easiest way to do that. And yeah, I mean, this is it. You could always check out this video and follow all the steps on how to look up all the apprenticeships and find the information. And that's my part. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Risa, and also again for Vincent for providing that really awesome information. My contact information is there. We're actually going to go into the questions and answers portion. So if you have a question, I do encourage you to write it into the questions box and make sure to hit send. I actually have a quick reminder. Someone had put into the chat box earlier that the extension actually for the priority deadline is actually on March 4th now. Thank you so much for that reminder. March 2nd does fall on a Saturday, and so they are actually extending it down up to March 4th. So again, March 4th is the priority deadline to complete the FAFSA. I have a question that came in for you, Vincent, asking how can community colleges, or how do currently community colleges currently collaborate with high schools to assist students on making informed decisions about choosing post-secondary, financial aid options, and other critical information that they may need to have. Maybe you can share kind of what is you are doing at LA Trade Tech and maybe what you have heard from the field.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. The community colleges have feeder high schools, so you know, a lot of the students at the feeder high schools usually come to the community college in their area. So annual, on a regular basis, we have a team that goes out to the feeder high schools not only to do orientations for the community colleges, you know, on our pathways, as well as financial aid questions or enrollment questions, but also we also offer concurrent enrollment classes at the high schools for dual credit. So that's done on a regular basis. I want to say a weekly basis, actually, at the high school. So we actually have orientations that go down as far as the ninth grade. For students. So it's never too early to get information regarding the community college option. And the more information you have, the better. And the fact that we're on campuses. One thing that has happened is that we have colleges that we would say probably are not necessarily in our region, but because we have certain specific programs that are looking at having our students go into, they may reach out to us to come out to their schools, which we've done. And also we have standard articulation agreements with those schools on a regular basis. So that's how we keep the communication channels open with the high schools. We just don't wait till they get here. We provide the orientations and also other information regarding community college options before they even get here. So last thing I would say is, if you want more information about that, your college counselor at the high school should be aware of what colleges are coming to the campus on a regular basis. They should have a schedule when they're coming.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I have a question here for you, Yuritsa. It seems before that the apprenticeships were geared more for the trades. Is this still the case, or are there becoming more broad options? Like I saw that there was childcare. Are there other examples that you can provide?
Yeah, so we're actually expanding. We have some IT programs. We have hospitality. We have a bunch of different industries now. So like IT, hospitality, civil service, advanced manufacturing. We do have CNA programs for certified nursing. So we have expanded actually pretty far from just the construction and the trades. So yeah, there's a lot of occupations available.
We had a couple questions, Vincent, about the Ability to Benefit program. I know that a few community colleges have actually gotten rid of that program. Can you kind of explain what Ability to Benefit program is and how you actually can find a program that's available?
Okay, well, the Ability to Benefit program is similar to a GED program for students who are trying to get financial aid and do not have a high school diploma. This is the way coming on a community college where the foster youth can be a part of that program. I think it's about a semester or two, I believe, in order to get that high school diploma equivalent. And then once they have that, then they're eligible for financial aid. So what I would now how to determine that, most of the community colleges I know in the Los Angeles Community College District have that. So what I would do basically is to Google, for example, LA community colleges that have a benefit to Ability to Benefit program, and you'll know basically which those are. But I do know Trade Tech has one, and we are part of a 9 community colleges in our district, and most of our community colleges in our district have a Ability to Benefit program similar to a GED program.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and then I had a question for you, Yuritsa. How often is the apprenticeship website updated? Is that updated yearly? Is it quarterly? Like, how often can we expect to kind of see programs pop up?
It's updated every day. So mine was a recording, so it's from the day I recorded, but when you log in, it's updated that morning.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then, Vincent, this may be actually a question for you or anybody else who can answer this question. Is there any way to find GED programs online that may be free in Los Angeles County? Or, any county. I want to actually expand that too.
Okay, I'm not sure of any online GED programs at this point. Maybe some of the other participants on the line, but I'm not familiar with any online GED programs at this point.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm not familiar with that.
I mean, the only option I can give up basically is to possibly Google that, but I don't believe there's any in California. I don't believe there are. There may be one. If there's one, I'm not aware of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And then I have one final question. Can you there was a shout out for the Apprenticeship Tool and just kind of taking us through that. Thank you so much again, Yuritsa, for that. Is there a similar tool to find OJT options by county?
That is a good question. So the OJT programs are in that that search that I walked you guys through, they're in there. You just have to click on the occupation and find out that it's an OJT. There is no way for us to actually filter it out and only show you the OJT. You'll just have to look at the program length.
And can you define kind of what OJT is for those of us that may not be familiar with that?
Yes, the OJT stands for on-the-job training. So it's just the training portion, not the classroom.
Oh, well, it sounds like there are no additional questions. Oh, just kidding. There's one more. It's actually a really great question. Are there apprenticeship programs for undocumented students?
Yeah, so the apprenticeships don't ask, well, you know, so some of the programs will ask you to prove that you can work in the state of California. The state of California does not care if you're undocumented or if you're documented. We don't discriminate against that. So you'll just have to check with the employer if they're okay with hiring you.
And then we have one final question about deadlines to apply for the apprenticeship programs, or are they kind of open to apply at any time during the year?
A lot of them are different. So on the video that I walked you guys through, when you look at application, I forgot what it said, application or acceptance dates, some will say interval. So it'll be periodically, you'll have to contact them and ask them when they have their applications open. Some will say continuous, so you can apply anytime. And then others will say 2 times a year or quarterly. So that's the part where it's important to contact the program and ask them when their applications are open or when their deadlines are.
Okay, and then I have a question here also about certificates and the completion. So are there certificates that they'll receive for the classroom and or the hands-on training hours? Is there, what is the recognition for completing those?
Yes, at the end of, when you finish the 2,000 hours or when you finish the 500 OJT hours, if it's the OJT program, you do receive a state certificate of completion for both. So when you finish the whole program for apprenticeship, you'll receive a completion for that one. And when you finish the OJT program, you'll receive a separate certificate. So it's not just for the classroom and just for the hours. It'll just be for the program itself.
Then another additional question, are the apprenticeship programs for formerly incarcerated youth?
Yeah, a lot of the construction ones are very open to formerly incarcerated. There's a couple of different ones. So if they're going to work on a school site or they're working in a hospital, by law they're not allowed to have any criminal background. But a lot of them, they won't discriminate against that. So it's just you have to see the occupation that you're applying to. But I wanted to add just a little bit more to the certificate part. It is signed by the governor. It's signed by the Chief of Division of Apprenticeship Standards. So it's very official. It has the seal of California on it. So it's recognized. You can take it from one job to another and prove that you are certified and are a professional in that position.
Got it. And then I'm going to circle really quickly back to the undocumented students question. And I may have misheard you, so I apologize if I misheard. And for the undocumented students, many of them may not have a social security number. Is that going to impede them in getting paid? What can some of the barriers be for that for them?
So if they don't have a working permit, which I think a working permit, if I'm not mistaken, provides like a sort of like a social security number, they have to speak to the employer. Because the state of California isn't the one paying them, it's that employer. They're joining their program. They have to find out how they'll get paid. So you'll just have to contact the employer.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. And then Vincent, this question may actually be more geared towards you, and this will actually be our last question. What resources would you suggest for younger kids to begin exploring the trades and or the certificates versus colleges?
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes. What resources would be available for younger students that want to explore going into the trades, receiving a certificate versus the option of going to college?
Well, the community colleges have as being part of the community colleges, there are student services here on campus for DSPNS students. There's for financial aid. There's to prepare students for the ability for going to college. The key thing here is getting off to a good start. So those are the elements that also is part of the orientations when we come out to the high schools to talk to the students about early preparation, being serious about what they're doing, on time to class, taking care of their financial aid if they need that, because they do fill out forms, and we find out a lot of times that students don't get their financial aid at the right time because they have missing information or unclear information on their FAFSA forms. So early preparation is probably the best thing. In regards to resources, basically, I mean, with the benefits of the resources being available at the college, basically, if they had no resources, the community colleges have the resources on the campus. At Trade Tech, for example, there also is a foster youth program on campus. Guardian Scholars, you may have heard of that. I'm not sure. Most of the community colleges have that program on campus specifically for foster youth. So it's the general orientation to college and also the specific guidance by the foster care Guardian Scholars program that also has other resources that the general college may not have to assist students, foster care students, on getting off to a good start. So that they can go to that department actually directly if they need additional assistance on campus.
Yes, and I would suggest, and I would also piggyback off of that too, if you have younger youth that are interested in, when you're exploring the college options, use those tools and reach out to your community colleges, foster youth programs, your Next Up programs, an EOPS program. There are many times there are programming that's happening on those campuses to help younger youth, even as young as elementary school, to explore college options and even have a hands-on training or hands-on assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually did have one more question that came in. It seems to be a quick one. For apprenticeship programs, Yuritsa, can they start those programs right away, or is there a wait list, or does it depend on the program?
It depends on the program. So some of them might have a wait list. With the electrician ones, the construction ones, you have to take an exam, you have to score really high, you have to be really good at math skills. And once you've scored, you will be put on a wait list, and then you'll wait until it's your turn to enter the program. Some of them you could start right away. It just really depends on the occupation and how it's kind of like a community college or like a college type of thing. You want the youth to apply to as many as possible so they have a better chance of getting in.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, again, for our panelists, to Vincent and Yuritsa, for offering some really awesome information and some tools that we can use with our own students in order to give them some more options. So I thank you again. If you have any additional questions, or I may have anything at all that you have questions about, that you may have questions for our presenters, please shoot me an email, tia@jbay.org, and we appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.